to review some stuff that, frankly, you learned probably 7th grade, somewhere around in there. And I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence by doing this, but I have run into some cases where people didn't remember this. So I figured take a day, I'll remind you of it, because in this class you cannot use a calculator this semester at all. Okay? Next semester, partway through the semester, we'll learn something called trigonometry where you'll need a calculator. But nothing we do this semester you actually need a calculator for. So let me just remind you of operations with integers. Remember, integers are whole numbers, including negative whole numbers and 0. So let's start off with addition, which for most people is not a big deal. If you have like signs, I'm adding two positive numbers together, or I'm adding two negative. Well, if they're two positive numbers, this is basic elementary school. I learned this a really long time ago. So we're going to go through this fairly quickly. 7 plus 8 is what? Anyone? 15. And 23 and 34 added together is 57. And if you're adding two negatives together, well, you're going to get something that's a bigger negative number. So we're just going to add like we did before, but we have a negative answer. So negative 8 plus negative 5 is negative 13. And negative 37 plus negative 24 is, negative 61. So the rule is when adding two numbers together with the same sign, so when adding two numbers with the same sign, add the values and keep the sign. That was some good distance there. All right. Because when you're adding these two numbers together with the same sign, they're working with each other, right? They want your answer to go the same way. But what happens when you're adding with unlike signs? I'm going to show you a way to visualize this. I don't think anybody should take the time to do this more than one or two to remind you of what's going on, but I think it's a good way to go. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to visualize it. One of the easiest is to use pluses and minuses to represent the numbers and then canceling pairs of pluses and minuses. It's called canceling the zeros. Or canceling the zero pairs, I think is the way that the 7th grade book that we use here. So if you have 6 plus negative 8, if we were to draw that out as 6 pluses and 8 negatives, we would have a zero pair here, a zero pair here, a zero pair here, 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 and here. What are we left with? Two negatives. So that's negative 2. And this is literally how, when I first teach this to students who have never added or subtracted positive and negative numbers together, this is how you start. If you have positive 9 plus negative 4, I'm going to have 9 positives. So 9 positives and 4 negatives. I've got 4 0 pairs. All that's 0. And how many positives do I have left? 5. What's happening here is these two are working against each other. I have a positive 9 and a negative 4. Positive 6 and negative 8. This is a little bit like, for those of you who are football fans, let's say you made a 7-yard gain on the first play, and then the second play the offensive tackle jumps off sides and you get a 5-yard penalty. How many net yards do you have at that point? You had 7 yards to start with, and then you lost 5 yards. What have you got left? 2. Your net yards at that point is only 2. There was more positive than negative, but not very much more. So let's go on to page 2. Using positives and negatives is fine for really small numbers. But imagine we were trying to do this for negative 63 plus 97. No one in their right mind is going to write out 63 negatives and 97 positives and then circle up the 0 pairs, right? That would take a really long time. So we need a rule that makes this faster. Here are the results that we had before. Ignoring the signs for just a moment. So ignore the negative on the 8. How can we get 2 from 6 and 8? Subtracting them. And how can we get 5 from 9 and 4? Yeah. Subtract those two and we get 5. So once we get those numbers, how do we determine the sign of the answer? Well, which one had more, the negative or the positive here? There was more negative than positive. When I add them then, the answer will be negative. And here there was more positive than negative, so we're going to end up with a positive number. So how can we get 5? In both cases, by subtracting. Once we get those numbers, how do we determine the sign of the answer? It is the same as the sign of the larger number. So our rule here is when adding two numbers with opposite signs, subtract their values. And use the sign of the larger value. So for these examples, I've got negative 63 plus 97. Is my answer going to be positive or negative? Positive. There's more positive than negative. So I'm just going to take 97 minus 63, which is 34. My answer is positive 34. For my next example, we have 28 plus negative 19. Is my answer going to be positive or is it going to be negative? Positive. Why? Because what?
The sign with the plus has more than the sign with the negative.
Yeah, the 28, which is positive, has a greater value than the 19, which is negative. So we'll subtract 28 minus 19, which is 9. So my answer is just 9. For this next one, is my answer going to be positive or negative? Negative. I go ahead and do that immediately. All right? I mean, you can do it and be done with it, and then I'm going to just subtract the two numbers, 75 minus 57. I'll borrow 1. 15 minus 7 is 8. 6 minus 5 is 1. This is negative 18. So is this next one going to be a positive or a negative? It's going to be positive, so I'm not going to worry with putting a sign, so I'll just subtract 85 minus 46. And I know a lot of you have learned how to borrow and do the subtraction. And we'll get 39. I'm going to show you that there is another way to do it that I think is actually easier and faster. Okay? You don't have to use this at all if you don't want to. And if it confuses you, just, put your hands over your ear and quietly say la 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 to yourself so you don't hear it. But let me show you. If I have 85 minus 46, what's 80 minus 40? 40. What's 5 minus 6? I think it's a lot easier. You don't have to borrow, you don't have to do any of that other stuff. You just go, okay. And you can read it from left to right instead of right to left. You don't have to use that. The nice thing about doing it this way is that you can, once you've done this for a little while, you'll get to the place where you can do that in your head. All right, let's move on. Page 3. So with subtraction, you've done simple subtraction before, where both numbers are positive and the second integer is smaller than the first. You've done that since elementary school. 8 minus 5 is 3. 23 minus 18 is 5. And at that age, you were told something like this: oh, you can't take 7 from 4 because 7 is bigger than 4. Right? That sound familiar? Someone would say you can't take 7 from 4 when you were, very young. I'm talking like first grade, kindergarten kind of stuff. And as long as you stay within the positive numbers, that's true. But you can take 7 from 4. You just have to know about negative numbers, which you weren't ready for when you were 4 or 5 years old. Okay? So when the problems look more complicated, just remember this rule. Now, there's all kinds of different ways that people do things. I've heard, what's the one? L chop. There's all kinds of weird things that people do. Since addition and subtraction are opposites, subtracting a number is the same as adding the opposite. So for example, if it's 8 minus negative 7, that's the same thing as adding a positive 7. And that's just 15. If I have negative 6 minus 5, well, that's minus a positive, so I can change that to plus a negative. Anytime I'm subtracting, it's the same thing as adding the opposite. So I can add the opposite of 5, which is negative 5. So that's negative 11. And then negative 23 minus negative 9. I'll make that negative 23 plus positive 9. And that is negative 14. I guess I should show what I'm doing there. 23 minus 9. If you want to do it by borrowing, that's fine. I'll just show you the other one real quick. That's 20 minus nothing is 20. And 3 minus 9 is negative 6. So that's 14. It's also a lot less messy than the whole borrowing thing is. So that's negative 14 because there's more negative than there is positive. So let's take a look at these. First, rewrite it. It's negative 16 plus a negative 11. All right, Terrence, what do I do with those two numbers? If I'm adding negative 16 and negative 11 together, what do I need to do? Add them. All right, 16 and 11 is 27. And then what? Pardon? It's a negative. I'm adding two negatives together. I should get a bigger negative number. Nicely done. Arturo, tell me how to rewrite this one. Yeah, negative 47 plus 8. And then since these are opposite signs, what do I do? Yeah, we subtract 47 minus 8. Again, if you want to do it with the borrowing, go ahead. I'm just going to do it this other way because I think it's easier. That's 47 minus 8 is negative 1. That's 39. So this is negative 39 because there's more negative than there is positive. Matthew, tell me how to rewrite this next one, please.
It's negative 53 plus 72.
Exactly right. Max, you with us? You okay? I know it's really hot in here. It's hard to concentrate. Do what you can.
And then it's 125.
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
I've got a negative 53 and a positive 72.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Francis. It's positive 21. No?
No?
Nope.
So we're going to subtract these two. What's 70 minus 50?
I'm so sorry.
Matthew, it's okay. What's 70 minus 50? Matthew, what's 70 minus 50?
70 minus 50 is 20.
Right? And what's 2 minus 3?
2 minus 3 is
Try again.
1. -1.
Negative 1.
You got it.
So this is 19.
You got that.
It's a positive 19.
Matthew, what's 20 minus
21. Sorry.
All right. Lauren, tell me how to rewrite this one, please.
24 plus 15.
So what am I going to do on this one?
Add.
Yeah, we're just going to add. That's 39. Pardon? That's your what? Your coach for?
Volleyball.
Gotcha. All right, Mia, tell me how to rewrite this next one, please.
6 plus positive 46.
Yeah, 6 plus positive 46. I'm just going to add those together. 6 and 6 is 12, plus 40 is 52. And then this one, Logan, tell me how to rewrite it, please. Plus what? Yeah, plus a negative 24. So we're going to change these from subtraction to addition by saying add the opposite. So I'm going to add the opposite of positive 24, which is negative 24, These are both negative, so I'm going to add them together. So that's 33, and it is going to be negative. All right. One other thing that we're going to do today, and this is actually a setup for stuff that we're going to do later on this week, solving an equation with a fractional factor. So an equation that we'll see soon is that m is equal to half of E1 plus E2. If you really want to be fancy about it, you can say m is equal to half of E subscript 1 plus E subscript 2. That's a lot to say. And people sometimes will just say E sub 1 plus E sub 2 instead of saying subscript. But most of the time people just say E1 and E2. Solving for m when we're given E sub 1 and E sub 2 just uses the rule for adding integers. So for example, find the value of m if E sub 1 is negative 24 and E sub 2 is 18. So m is equal to half of E sub 1, which is negative 24, plus E sub 2 is 18. So then what do I do when I'm adding two numbers with opposite signs? Yes, sir. You subtract, that's exactly right. So we're going to do 24 minus 18. Let's see, 20 minus 10 is 10, and 4 minus 8 is negative 4, so that's 6. Again, you don't have to use that method if you don't want to. I just like it because I think it's faster. So this is going to be 1/2 of negative 6 because there's more negative than there is positive. And half of negative 6 is negative 3. On the other hand, if we're solving for E sub 1 or E sub 2, we got to do some algebra. So this one says, find the value of E sub 1 when m is negative 17 and E sub 2 is negative 4. So I'm going to write out the formula. This is a formula that you'll probably need to have memorized. M is equal to 1/2 of E sub 1 plus E sub 2. We'll fill in what we know. This is negative 17 is 1/2 of E sub 1 plus 47. Mr. B. Miller may be about to come in. Oh, he was checking on my air conditioner. All right. Now, to solve this, we could distribute the 1/2. I don't think that's a good idea. Because then you'd have to take half of 47, and that's not going to be a whole number, is it? It's not that bad. You can do it if you want. What I do instead is I multiply both sides by 2. So negative 17 times 2 is a negative 34. Here, 1/2 times 2 is 1. It gets rid of the fraction for you, and I'm all about getting rid of the fractions. So this is equal to E1 plus 47. So we're going to have negative 34 minus 47. So if you wrote it horizontally, it's negative 34 minus 47, which is the same thing as negative 34 plus a negative 47. The signs are actually the same. When the signs are the same, I'll simply add those. Turns out to be 81, and keep the sign. That's negative 81 is E sub 1. Let's do this last example real quick. Again, m is equal to half of E sub 1 plus E sub 2. Substitute in what we know, 63 is half of negative 28 plus E sub 2. If you really want to distribute the half, feel free. It's not wrong. I just think it's easier to do it this way. I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2. On the left side, let's see, that's 2 times 60 is 120, plus another 6 is 126. Equals, over here, the 1/2 times 2 is 1, and 1 times anything is just whatever the anything was. So that'll be negative 28 plus E sub 2. We'll add 28 to both sides. That's just straight up adding. So E sub 2 is 154. Any questions about that? Again, I'm not trying to insult anybody's intelligence.
Confused on like, can I get like a recap of what E2 is? Like I'm confused. It's like we're finding the value
Mm-hmm.
of E2,
Right?
but what is E2?
Doesn't matter.
Oh.
It's just a variable.
Okay.
Okay? All right. I have an assignment for you that is a worksheet. guys tomorrow. Have a good evening. Yes, that's the home.
Hi, Lauren. Hi, Sam. Hi, Sam.
Got you. Yeah, Mr. Davis, sorry about that.
No, don't worry about it. Everybody makes mistakes.